Okay, welcome back to What If History Restarted. Last episode we saw a couple of events all over the world, such as this war up in Canada, a war over here in Africa, China and Korea officially making their alliance known, and most importantly, the conversion of the Cross Alliance from an economic alliance to a military alliance. Did you like that little thing I did? That was cool. Anyway. That was the main thing. These guys became a military alliance, which kind of freaked out everyone. The Octagon Alliance did not follow suit. So, yeah. But anyway, speaking of the Octagon Alliance, speaking of alliances, I guess, we're going to be looking to China and Korea, because obviously they just made their alliance, and everyone just thinks that, this is just for them to show that they're aligned now. Which obviously everyone already knew, because these two countries have been aligned for all of history. However, as you can tell by the fact I just created a third arrow, they're actually going to be gaining a member. Down here, over in North Sumatra, that's what it's called, these guys are going to be joining the Upwards Arrow Alliance. Now, the reasoning behind this is because these guys want protection from, over here, South Sumatra, who is their biggest enemy. South Sumatra is in the Diamond Alliance, and the Diamond Alliance is aligned with the Octagon Alliance, so they aren't going to be joining the Octagon Alliance, because that's, the allies of their enemy. However, they could have joined the Cross Alliance, because that is the main competitor of the Octagon Alliance. However, these guys are pretty far away. The closest member is this one out in, I don't even know, it's I guess it's just really far, real world China. How big is it? Does it actually go all the way out here? I don't know, but maybe. But yeah, all the way over there. It couldn't be China. I don't know where this would be in real life, but whatever this country is the closest to these guys out of the Cross Alliance. And they obviously don't really want to participate in an alliance that's this far away and different culturally. And, they could join the Trapezoid Alliance, but that kind of goes for the same reason. Plus, these guys are much weaker than either the Cross Alliance or even Upwards Arrow Alliance, even though there's only 2 members, but come on man, this is nothing. So, that kind of just leaves them with China and Korea. The government of this country doesn't really especially have anything against either China or Korea, so they just figure that they might as well join them. And so with that, China and Korea's alliance has gained another member, which does frighten everyone else, because they're whoa, these guys were banned from making their alliance come back again. Kind of forget what their alliance was. Oh, it was the Triangle Alliance, I think. So these guys were not supposed to bring the Triangle Alliance back, but Sumatra was never part of the Triangle Alliance, I don't think. So, that's their excuse. And no one actually cares enough to invade them, because, we already had that war a few episodes back, and where the Octagon Alliance tried to invade them, and it backfired. It didn't exactly backfire, but, it barely gained any land and lost a ton of troops and all that. Generally, they just looked like this before. This is, all of the land that they lost. So, it wasn't good. Anyway, moving on from that, we could go over here to the Middle East. If you remember, these 2 countries broke off from that one yellow country that was here a while. It was created after World War I, but it was not very stable. It was just kind of made only just to weaken the red team. And obviously that was not a good idea for a country, so it pretty violently split up. However, these 2 countries have kind of grown to dislike each other, mainly because, obviously, like I just said, they kind of both came out of a civil war from the same country, so they were always a little bit violent towards each other. Past that, they're also heavily competing over resources in this area, and also over here in the little bit of the Levant. Actually, I think the Levant is the land, but over on the Levantine Sea, some of their ships have been what's it called? interfering with the other ones. So, yeah. And anyway, they don't like that. So we're gonna see a good old-fashioned war. Anyway, the lime. This is not lime. The cyan one is gonna be pushing out in the middle. They can't really go for either of these two cities because they're too well defended. However, they do cut off both of them, so that's pretty good for them. As for the orange sort of country, they start coming down here, mainly to defend their city, which is pretty good. They do get close to this city over in this country, Syria, I guess. And they also do stuff over here. Anyway, Syria continues to push up into, I guess, South Turkey, Turkiya, or however you pronounce the new name. They do close in on both of the cities a little bit, but are still unable to capture either, although they do get very close to this one. From here, this war is not going to continue this way. And that is because we're going to see a new country join in, that being the mighty pink team. Yes, these guys have done nothing, but they literally just see this as a good opportunity to gain land, and resources, so that's literally their entire excuse for doing it. Mainly because they want this city and maybe this one if they can get their hands on it. Their excuse for doing this is literally just like, oh, well, these guys are invading each other, so we're going to invade them, but like peacefully invade them and not kill any civilians, so then we can stabilize the area or something. It's a pretty bad excuse, but no one else really cares that much about these two countries, so they're kind of free to do it. Anyway, this city is going to fall over to the combined pressure of Syria and the pink team. This offensive is going to be pushed back, and the capital of the orange team goes under siege. I think that's the word. I feel like it's more like a medieval word, but oh well. I'm not even sure what year it would be. Probably in like the 1970s, maybe 80s by this point. Probably in the 70s. But anyway, Syria landlocks the orange country, well, other than the capital area. And from there, the rest of this isn't too densely populated, so it eventually just falls, and they're left as just their capital. Meanwhile, the pink team over here is going to be pushing further into the orange team, taking the only city other than the capital. And we also continue to push down here a little bit. Syria does try to make a counteroffensive, but it kind of fails terribly, and they get back like 2 pixels of land from it, so great for them. But anyway, they're finally going to be able to capture the capital city of the orange team, and from there they don't really want to keep fighting the pink team because they have exhausted out a lot of their military troops, or just troops, I guess, and they don't want to be fighting in a whole nother war again. So now we're going to be able to look at this peace treaty, like so. Okay, first of all, they are going to be Syria will be gaining the capital of the orange team. Like, they don't take that much land, but they do take the capital, so, that's pretty important land. So that's kind of why they don't take that much. Anyway, over here, the pink team is going to be getting a nice amount of land. They will get this major city from the orange team, which definitely angers the blue team. But they will also be getting some of the blue team, which is going to make it worse for the blue team, including this major city down here. The orange team is still alive, but they're sad and alone, and so they're just going to do this. From there, they're actually going to feel, they're going to be like, oh, maybe we should have been in an alliance. So because of that, they're actually going to go over to the Hexagon Alliance and join them, because they don't want to get invaded again. Let's make an actually good hexagon. Bam. So yeah, they will now be in the Pentagon or Hexagon Alliance from now on. The pink team is in the Circle Alliance, but keep in mind that it's an economic alliance, so that's why the war didn't really matter. As for Syria, they got out of this war decently okay. They lost this city over here, but they did gain this one, which is almost definitely bigger, so I would say they got away with victory in the end. But really, the pink team was the real winner. The orange team was the real loser. It was like burnt orange, I guess. Anyway, I'm gonna come down here over to Cambodia's little thing, colony. That's what it's called. Cambodia is a pretty powerful country, but like not that powerful. And for where they are, like it's kind of surprising that they still have this big of a colony, because I mean, like they aren't that strong, and because like the only other country to really have colonies still is Tuscany. You could argue that Gibraltar also has colonies. It's like this is their only native land, and all of this is just kind of like other native ethnic groups that they conquered. However, this is more, as you can tell, this is actually like connected straight up by land to their main area. So yeah. Also, looking at this, they don't even have a capital. I just realized that. Sorry, bud. Where's the city there? There it is. Bam. Or bam. There we go. Now they have a capital. I mean, this kind of functions as one city. It's just, as two halves. So, but that will be the capital, I guess. But, yeah. So, anyway, really, unless you count Gibraltar, or we can just say that Cambodia is one of two countries with overseas colonies. And, Cambodia is definitely not the second strongest country in the world. And so, what that means, basically, these guys are not especially, willing to be here because, well, or it's going to be hard to control them for Cambodia, because, these guys are going to be able to break away pretty easily, because Cambodia isn't really that strong to keep them. Anyway, the colonized people actually aren't, like, treated that bad over here. It's probably, like, the most tolerant colony in history. However, that especially goes over for these guys who honestly, like, don't even mind being in their, they don't even really mind being in the Cambodian colony. However, over here, these guys do have more of an issue with it, the yellow team people. And that especially goes actually over here on Madagascar. And also, let me just, like, I feel like there should be a few more cities here, so let me just, bam, bam, bam. That's probably good. Let's throw, yeah, you know what, that's good. So yeah, over here in Madagascar, these guys are, like, ruled over a little bit unfairly, because most of Cambodia's, resources when it comes to managing the people of the colony go over here to the mainland, and Madagascar kind of doesn't get that much support, and they're kind of just left on their own. So obviously they don't want to be ruled by a country that's not even giving them anything in return. So eventually we're going to see the people of Madagascar kind of revolt, and eventually they kind of take, like, all of the island, as well as this one over here. And from there, Cambodia's gonna be like, okay, you know what, you can have it. So that's a pretty big win for Madagascar, which is now independent, obviously. However, this island does not want to be under the same government, so this is its own country as well, because that would be funny. So there we go. This is the most powerful country in the world. But yeah. So Cambodia has lost their Madagascar colony. That's definitely inspired some more independence movements over in the yellow areas. I mean, it's also inspired some in the pink areas, but more in the yellow area. So, yeah. Anyway, how long has this video been? Only 14 minutes. I gaslit myself. But anyway, we were just discussing how, the colonies, but arguably not colonies, of Gibraltar. And I remember, I think it was episode 65, maybe 64, I promised that I would do something with them soon, because, I mean, they're like a major world player, and they literally have not had a relevance since World War One, which was like, 17 episodes ago now. So now we're going to give them relevance. Go, Gibraltar fans. But anyway, if we look at the religion layer, you can see that the Gibraltarian ethnicity is like this. I mean, we also have it over in their colonies. Yeah, over here. But if you look at the actual world map, you can see that it's not going all the way down here, because if we look at the religion map, we have some from the Sahara people. We also have a little bit from this like light orange people over in this triangle area. But those people probably don't really care, because these guys' whole thing is that they're like a mix of Gibraltar and Egypt. So yeah. But then we got this dark green one and this brownish one over here. And so none of these guys want to be part of Gibraltar. Gibraltar kind of sucks, and like, they got to go across the whole desert to give aid to a lot of these people. I mean, they could also go along the coast, but like regardless, that is a very narrow passageway of actual decent land. So, yeah, and that's why they don't get a lot of support. Even past then, they probably just wouldn't want to be under Gibraltar's control, because who would? But anyway, in the furthest reaches of Gibraltar, down in the far south, a lot of these people want to either join the orange team or make their own country. Making their own country is probably more favored. Who are these islands? Who owns these islands? Dun 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 dun. Denmark. Why does Denmark have those islands? Okay, I guess we're keeping it like that. But anyway, yeah. So there's a lot of revolts down here. Most of them want to join their own country, but they are definitely being funded by the orange team down here, because the orange team also does not like Gibraltar. Why is this not working? Oh, there we go. So a lot of these revolts start popping up in the south, and this is just like one color. But eventually these guys are gonna like fill up the entire area of their ethnic group. However, the rebellion is not going to stop there, because the people of other ethnic groups are starting to rise up as well and start to join into this rebellion. Gibraltar has finally got their main military down here, and from there they do start pushing back a little bit, mainly over here in the more deserty area, although that might not even be desert, I'm not sure, where the Sahara ends. I think it's like, well, all the way up here, but then like, I want to say it's like this, but also maybe not this. So this area, I don't know. But anyway, yeah, this is eventually kind of where it stabilizes, and from there, Gibraltar does not want to keep fighting this, so we're gonna see a new country get made down here, or multiple actually, not sure. But anyway, starting out, I mean, I guess it would have to be multiple because there's two ethnicities down here. But starting out with these guys, we're just gonna draw on this border real quick, and then shaboinky. So these guys, I guess, will be their own country, like this. And who owns these guys? Ooh, is that just Gibraltar? Oh, wait, hold on. Religion layer. No. Yes. What? Bam. Okay. Oh wait, now I'm doing the weird pixels, okay. Am I though? No, okay, I guess nobody owns... I guess these islands just don't have an ethnicity for some reason. That is odd. But, we're just gonna say that they're part of this ethnicity. We could also just give them independence. But, like, we could also not do that. We're just gonna keep them as Gibraltar. How about that? But, anyway, these guys are a country. Major city is right on the border, so that's kind of annoying to look at, so we're just gonna extend them out a little bit here. Don't tell anyone. And they're going to get their capital now, which is going to be in this city over here. Then as for the ethnic group up here, like right here, these guys make up actually like a whole lot of Gibraltar's colonial land. However, not all of them are going to be getting independence because, well, the rebellion wasn't that successful. But we do see a new country pop up over here. It's a fairly small one, but it is a country. So, I mean, it's not even that small, I guess. It's kind of small. It's pretty small. That is a pretty small country, actually. But, yeah, these guys exist. They're very lime. And their capital is going to be probably like in the far south, because they don't want it to be all deserty. So yeah, with that, Gibraltar has lost some land, and that's unfortunate for them. pretty fortunate for these guys here. We're just kind of laughing at them. I do want to also just touch up on like the losers of World War One, because such as, I mean, I've talked a lot about Austria, so we don't need to talk about them. Looking at countries that were previously major players, like Catalonia and Portugal, which is now Galicia again, and Denmark. I guess that's kind of it. But these three countries, they were, the losers of World War One. They are, like, well, I mean, obviously there's a lot of losers of World War One, but like these guys are the big ones, the most powerful countries that are still here and haven't been relevant, such as these two, because they have been relevant. But these three, they really haven't done that much since World War One. As for what they're doing, they're mostly just trading with each other and building up their economies. We could do like an economy power rankings video at some point. Or, I mean, not in some video, but in some episode at some point. We could do it now, I guess. You know what, that sounds like a fun idea. Okay, you know what, top 10 economies, we're doing it now. Bam, bam. It's probably easier just to do it like this. Okay, strongest economy in the world. Is it Tuscany? Kind of don't want it to be Tuscany, but it might be Tuscany, but it might not be. It could be like one of these guys. It could be California. And I think the strongest country in terms of economy does have to be Tuscany. So yeah, number 2 is probably going to be California. They aren't that strong. They aren't like a super strong country militarily, but economically they're very powerful. Third strongest, I would say, might be Oman, because they do have the coast over here, Persian coast, whatever it's called. Fourth strongest economy, I would say probably like Golden Horde. They seem pretty good. Fifth would probably be like Korea. Sixth could be like Yucatan. It's probably about good. But then, actually, I forgot Austria. I think Austria might be number 4, because they have a very strong economy. And 5 is Golden Horde, and 6 is Yucatan. As for number 7, that would probably be like Denmark. And 8 would be Catalonia. 9 could be Cambodia, because they do have their colony. And 10th could be Baikal, I guess. So yeah, those are 10 strongest economic countries in the world. So, like I just said, Catalonia and Gibraltar and Denmark, they do have some pretty powerful economies that they've just been focusing on since they lost World War One. It's went pretty well for them. Although I guess Galicia didn't make this list, but they're top 15, I would say. It's like them, Ireland, probably Egypt. I don't really know who else. Maybe this country. Maybe Alabama. I don't know. But anyway, yeah, that is our update on the Trinity, Denmark, Galicia, and Catalonia. Can't tell if I really like or really don't like Denmark's borders. I don't like that. I think that would look better, wouldn't it? But that also looks kind of cool. I don't know. But anyway, we're going to be coming over to, well, first of all, why is this so off-centered? Just move that up there. But we're going to be coming over to these guys. If you haven't been keeping up with the series that closely, basically, these guys are a fascist expansionist country. However, they're actually doing it kind of sneakily, and with a lot of excuses. And also, these two countries have kind of been reduced to its puppet states. So, as you can see, they are in the same alliance. And yeah, these guys are kind of their puppet states. So their real borders would probably look a little bit more like this. I mean, their real, influence area. And this country looks really similar in color, so we're just going to give it to this country for a second. Because, yeah. So this is what they actually control, the purple team. So that's pretty good for them. I guess we could just use, this country to do the total, yeah. And now you can see it easier. Anyway, these guys do have some ambitions. So they would have actually wanted to invade Estonia and maybe even this country up here. However, because last episode, as you know, we saw the cross lines become military, that will not be happening. They would also love at some point to invade Ukraine and get a whole bunch of land, because obviously that would be like probably the best for them to invade. They would get like they could get like all of this. That would be nice. But Ukraine is also part of the Cross Alliance, and even then, I think Ukraine versus these three countries would actually be pretty close. I think Ukraine on their own might be able to beat these three. It'd be close though. Ukraine, I feel like I kind of sleep on the power rankings. I feel like they could be like 10th place. They're probably like a 15 power ranking in terms of military, not economy like we just did. So anyway, these guys are kind of left with not that many options, because the Square Alliance, they don't want to get bullied by Tuscany. So that kind of really just leaves these guys over in Scandinavia. I should probably elaborate on the Square Alliance more. Like, they could invade a Square Alliance country, but Tuscany is kind of protective, and also they just don't want to get like coalition, because these countries are more like, important to the economies of actual Europe. So, the other countries would be like, hey man, that's gonna hurt us too. Rah. But if they invade Scandinavia, this country up here, I could just call them Sweden, I guess. But yeah, if they were to invade like Sweden, these guys aren't really that powerful or economically important to the rest of Europe, so they could pretty easily just get away with invading them. And that is what they're going to do. Now, their excuse for doing this is basically, all they say really is that, like, over here in the Baltic Sea there was a skirmish between boats, which is kind of true, but like also not exactly. Like, there was a meeting between these two ships, and it did get involved with like a little bit of tension, but it was also completely these guys' fault, and they really only did it just because they wanted an excuse to invade Scandinavia. So, yeah. And with that, they're gonna be declaring war on. Well, actually, they aren't gonna be the ones to declare war on Scandinavia. They just go out and attack more ships and continue to say like, oh, we're not doing that. Why is that green? But yeah, they just go over and they just, say like, oh, we're not doing that, and then continue to blow up a bunch of ships here, which is, not good. And that's going to obviously make Sweden pretty angry, so they're going to declare war on Estonia. Estonia's like, oh no, that's not our fault. They're the invader. As you can see, the Estonian trio is in a military alliance. However, this war is kind of an exception, because everyone was like, dude, we really don't want to fight this. So Estonia was like, okay, I'll be your precious little angel, and I won't even ask you to, come and invade with me and help me out here. So, thank you, Estonia. We could do naval warfare. However, I don't really think it would be that interesting here, because, like, literally just, Estonia obviously has the advantage here. It really would just be them pushing back Sweden. So, yeah. But anyway, we're going to see Estonian troops land on the border over here. They're going to take this major city. I guess this isn't the border, this is just the coast, but whatever. They take this major city, first and foremost, and they surround this lake or river. It might just be part of the Baltic Sea, actually. Eventually, they get really close to this vital city, although they are not able to capture it. But they do take this lake and meet up with this one. They then make another landing down here in the south, and that goes pretty well. It allows them to cut off the vital city, which kind of depletes it of supplies, and eventually allows them to capture it. From there, they move all the way around here and get very close to the capital, then take the entire coast and roll through like this. And from there, after the capital gets taken, Sweden is going to surrender over to them. So, yeah. Blam. Blam, because apparently that's not the same color. But anyway, in this peace treaty, we actually aren't going to be seeing any land be given to these guys. Instead, what they're going to do is they're just going to create a new country. I believe that Sweden over here was actually, like, formed from two countries uniting. So they're not going to split out one of those countries, but, like, I wouldn't be surprised if this looks similar to what one of the countries might have looked like before. But, anyway, we're going to be seeing this country be created now. There's a random pixel here. Let me fix that. I don't like the vibrant. See, it's a little bit too vibrant for this area. That just looks like Tuscany. Yeah, that's almost exactly like Tuscany. Maybe they don't need to be purple. We can make them orange. We have this orange country already. Oh well, we're making them orange, I guess. Even though it's a pretty highly used color over here. Maybe we can make them like gray, but that just looks stupid. We can make them this color. That looks stupid. You know what? Let me see what country was here before. Okay, so looking at the old map, it was like this. And yeah, actually, you know, it's a little throwback here. Look at all this. Wow. It's the old map. Whoa. But, yeah. This is what the countries look like before, so they probably aren't going to split this up. But they are going to create a new country in the south. So because there is still, you know, the parts of both of the two countries that united, if you look at it in a certain way, you could say that, well, actually, you don't even really have to look at it in a certain way, because kind of objectively, the union is still a union, equal union, I would say, even, you know, both have one city. And this country down here is now its own country. However, as you know, things aren't going to be that simple, because this one is, of course, going to be just a puppet state again. Now, this one is a little bit less discreet, because these two countries are actually kind of, like, more, like, undercover puppet states. This one is pretty much, like not even supposed to be hidden, because, like, you know, everyone else, all the other countries in the world would be confused as to why this is what the peace treaty was, if, you know, this wasn't controlled by these guys, because how would that help anyone if this was just making a new country? What would be the point of that? But the point of that is what Estonia or Latvia tells the rest of the world. Well, actually, these guys are more us-aligned country. They don't say it's their puppet state, obviously, but yeah. So anyway, poor Sweden got kind of obliterated here. That wasn't very nice. World map. Right here. Yeah, let's give them that, just to make them feel a little bit better about themselves. We wouldn't want them to cry. Bam. Bam. So, that is probably going to be the end. Well, actually, first of all, these guys probably would be looking to join an alliance now, because their economy is kind of, you know, not doing so well. So they are going to join the Square Alliance. I'm not sure if they were ever in the Square Alliance. If they were, though, they probably left because they were mad at Tuscany for that one time that they, like, you know, bullied Austria and the people living over here in that semi-autonomous region. So, they're putting aside that difference just because, well, they need the money. But anyway, that is actually the end of the episode, and this is the map now. So, goodbye.